coming up on the Morning Star podcast.
The way we got to this point was not by being fed, like, this is how you need to do it. This is how it has to be. This is the theology you have to get to this point. It was saying, you know what? You need to figure this out for yourself. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. Because if you just have this, this is the way we do things. This is what you need to believe about this. This is what you need to believe about that. And there are like undeniable truths that not a lot of debate for that.
Yeah.
But all the little things that can be up more to interpretation, up to more the practical things that you need to come to a conclusion about. We didn't get to that point by someone saying, this is what you're going to believe. Now go and pass it. We got to that place by saying, this is what my theology is. You need to go find out what yours is. Because that's actually what makes your faith meaningful. Is not when it's someone else's faith that's just kind of been remixed and is now your faith. But when someone says, this is what my faith is, this is how I got there, you need to go do that for yourself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Morning Star podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Mayhew, and we're interrupting the start of this episode with a quick announcement. We are going to be transitioning from releasing episodes on the first and third Wednesday of every month to instead releasing them on just the first Wednesday. That's going to be starting with this episode here on September 5th, and then your next episode will be the first Wednesday of October. We're making this transition not just to make things a little more sustainable, but so that we can really focus on each episode, bringing you the best of our energy, talent, and creativity to share the stories that God is doing in the lives of our church family. We thank you so much for listening, for your continued support, and we hope that you really enjoy this wonderful conversation that I got to have with some of our high schoolers. I have with me today a whole crew of people. We have, from left to right, if you're watching the video, feel free to say hi into the mic as I introduce you. Katie Halliday.
The obvious favorite of the group, but you know.
Clear favorite, off to a strong start. Skylar Stongeland. Did I do that?
Stongeland.
We're
close enough.
We practice so much.
We really do.
Danny Nemechek.
Yes, sir.
And Karsten Stongeland.
Oh my gosh, it was perfect.
Wow.
Second time.
I just apparently did it better for you than for your sister, right? You guys all have something in common. You all are part of RIOT, or recently graduated from RIOT in a certain case. So we just wanted to have all these wonderful people on who we really respect. They're from the interactions I've had with them, they're just wise beyond their years, very fun, passionate for Jesus, and also just a big part of our high school ministry here that we call RIOT. So before I talk too much, though, let's go around and go ahead and introduce yourself. Say like how long you've been at Morning Star and like what your like role is with RIOT, or what your favorite, what your year in school is. How about that? Yeah.
Okay.
Starting with Katie.
So I've been a Morning Star for about 7 years now.
Okay.
Moved from Portland to here, and then we actually saw like an ad for Morning Star, and my dad was like, "Oh, this looks like a garage band church." And then we came, and then we just kind of never left.
Nice.
But
Great.
we love this church. I'm involved in leadership. It's been great. I really love serving here. It's been really great. I'm going into junior year, so.
Nice. Congrats.
I'm Skylar. I just graduated, so I'm going to Western Oregon this fall to study public policy and administration.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm really excited, but I have been at Morning Star since 2018, so like 5 years. We've both been here for 5 years.
Nice.
And I also did student leadership, and I loved it. It was really fun and a cool way to serve. And yeah, just I'm around. I'm always doing stuff.
Dope. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm Daniel, or Danny as most people call me. I've been at Morning Star for pretty much my entire life. And I am also on the student leadership team at RIOT. I'm going to be a junior. Was that one of the questions?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to be a junior in high school. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Bonkers. Yeah, I'm Karsten. 5 years about. That's right. 5 years. That's
5
how
years.
math works. Yeah, 2, 3. Obviously, 5 years. Yeah, I was just very confusing. It's confusing when it turns over. When the decade turns, it gets confusing. Yeah. Also on the leadership team, and going to be a junior in the fall as well.
Okay, nice.
My boy here.
Nice. I think you guys have all been at Morning Star longer than I have.
Oh.
So congrats. You guys are the wizened veterans. I'm just going to let you host the podcast from here on out.
We're going to take over now.
This is my podcast.
One thing I really wanted to talk about is because you all did RIOT. And I just wanted to hear your hearts. Like, why did you, or do you do RIOT? Why do you lead with RIOT? Why do you go to RIOT? why is that a thing that you spend several of your Wednesday evenings and much more time beyond that doing? Maybe just Katie, if you'd want to start. Yeah.
No, actually, if you
Okay.
can, no,
Yeah, Karsten.
no, I'm kidding. Yeah, surprisingly, like it not just for like hanging out with my friends, like that's a great part of it is like making connections with people, but also, the Lord calls us to serve, and it's a really great place to show that love of Christ to other people. And showing that love is very different from like worldly love and worldly friendships because godly love is very sacrificial. And when you go to RIOT every week and make that commitment, especially when you're on student leadership team and you have to make sure it's a welcoming and loving community, that's especially when you're not feeling up to it and you're feeling tired and you don't want to put in the effort. That sacrificial love is something that's very important, especially with being a Christian. And so that's a big part of why I do it. Yeah, it's really cool.
We're already like 5 minutes in. We're already getting to the snaps. No, I think that's just a wonderful view of service in general in the church, of just that sacrificial love and that focus on that. So thank you, Katie. That was great. Skylar.
Yeah, I would say RIOT gave me a like really important like sense of community that I really needed like my freshman and sophomore year, and like I needed people to walk through like really hard things with me, and that was so special. And I loved having like girls who were seniors in my small group who like were really good mentors to me. And so when I was an upperclassman, like a junior and a senior, serving on student leadership was like, that's what I should do so that I can like be that mentor and be the person that other people were for me, and like create the environment and the community that I had for other people. Like I want other people to experience God's love the way that I have through like other students and my leaders and all of that. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So just kind of a bit of you were ministered to by RIOT.
And I was like, I want to pour back into that so badly. I love being a part of it.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you, Skylar. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, I love going to RIOT just because I think our high school years are such like pivotal years in our lives. It's when we go from being like children to being adults, and we grow a lot like in our maturity as well as in our stature. And I don't remember the exact verse, but it talks about how Jesus grew in like wisdom and stature and favor with the Lord. And I believe that
You're good.
at RIOT, I think that we just do a really good job of like intentionally focusing on that, and being like, especially like the leaders, like the leadership at RIOT is just like, they're so intentional with their time, and they give up so much so that they can walk through life with us because they've done it before, and they know the mistakes that they've made, and they want to help us learn and grow through those mistakes. And so yeah, I just really love like the intentionality of how like the leadership works at RIOT, and then joining the student leadership team. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be able to pour back into those like the incoming freshmen and the underclassmen as I grow older.
How long have you been on the student leadership team? Is this like your first year?
Yeah, this would be my concluding my first full year.
Okay,
so,
got it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Going into year number 2.
Going into year number
Excellent.
2. Yeah.
Excellent. Sophomore in student leadership, junior in real life.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, I would say why I go to RIOT, I like the community aspect of like having other high schoolers and other teenagers that are trying to walk through life with God in the picture and that. And so it's a perfect environment to learn how to do that, because there's a bunch of other people that are also trying to do that too, that you can learn with and learn from and also help out. And I think like a very common theme of everyone that's like on the leadership team is like, it's not something that we were just like, I'm just decided to do this. Usually like we've been poured into and we have been set examples like from our leaders and from other people that were older than us, that were the people that we looked up to, that then we said, I want to be that for somebody else.
Yeah,
and so it was very much, it wasn't just like, I think this needs to happen and I'm just going to do this. It was like, this is what I'm seeing reflected around me and I need to continue that for other people that were like me.
It's sort of an extension of like, we love because God first loved us.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it sounds like you guys are serving sacrificially through love because other people have poured into you, and as a way of kind of giving back.
Absolutely.
Seem fair?
Of course.
Yeah.
Cool. So Riot is our high school ministry. We also may touch on Highlight. For those of you that don't know, that's our middle school ministry. I don't need to recap the grades for them, but both of those comprise kind of the umbrella of youth ministry, right? Which obviously you all are in Riot. And I kind of wanted to get your view, because I think we talk about this a lot as like people who are done with high school and graduated and whatever, and real life air quotes. I don't like that phrase, but like, oh, what's the role of student ministry? But I feel like it's pretty rare that we actually get to hear that from like students themselves. So what do you guys see as like the role of like youth ministry, the role of Riot? Like, why do we have it? Why does the church even need it? We'll start with Katie.
Okay.
No, Skylar, you go. You jumped on it. Yeah.
Jumping the gun.
I think that it is easy to feel like we need to disciple like young adults, and it can start so much earlier than that. Like, I think often it's like, oh, you guys are just really young and you don't know that much yet, or you haven't gotten there, you're not as mature. And I just think like there are so many people who are even younger than me that I'm like, wow, I am learning stuff from you all the time. And like, just having that intentionality, like Danny was saying, and being able to like be discipled by leaders and have them walk through life with you, like through middle school and through high school, especially when it's like so pivotal and you're going through all of these like different changes, and like you're growing up and like you're not a kid anymore. Like, it's so important. And I feel like high school for me was when I actually decided like, oh, I actually want to follow Jesus. Like, this is a choice that I'm making, not because my parents follow Jesus, not because my brother follows Jesus. Like, this is a choice that I'm making for myself. And to have people who are like, yes, and I want to support you in the choice that you're making and like help you learn how to follow Jesus in high school when it's really, really hard. The world is a really tough place out there.
Yeah. And especially getting tougher than even when I was in high school.
Yeah. And I think to have that intentional piece when the world is so tough is essential.
Yeah. Kind of building on what you're saying, like, I think it's so important to have that foundation built, like prior to our like going into like what we would call like young adult ages, like in our 20s and whatnot. Just having that, even if it is just like a foundation of what we believe in, and being able to like be sure of what we believe in and know what we believe in before some of those like rocky parts hit in life, and like when things get really tough, being able to like fall back on what we've learned at like this younger age, like through high school ministry, I think is so important.
Do you find yourself like, I mean, you haven't exactly launched yet, but do you already find yourself like being able to work with some of that foundation, or?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I am definitely in the process of really building like a lot of like my theologies and what, figuring out and putting to words exactly what I believe. I think that's a process I'm still working through now, and I'm probably going to be working through for quite a long time. I think most people will. But yeah, I know for sure just having at least the base foundation on just knowing what we believe in like Jesus and dying for our sins, even if it's like the most like simple basic stuff, being able to fall back on that when like when doubt hits, or when like just life sucks, and just being able to realize, okay, this is not all that life is. Like there's a hope, and that hope is Jesus, and like Jesus is coming again. So it's like we can fall back onto that hope. And yeah, I think even in my life now at 15 years old, I've been able to fall back on that and just been able to kind of rebuild.
That's so good. Yeah. No matter whether you're in Riot or High Life even, or you're 87 years old, that's like a foundational truth that you can fall
that
back
foundation is the same for everyone. So
And it's good to build early.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because I feel like the importance of building early and why high school ministry is such an important thing is because high school, I feel like, is when you like going into your freshman year, when you start getting more, and you know, you get a job and you're less like attached to your family and your parents, and you're doing more, you're more independent, you're more on yourself. That's where you really have to decide if, you know, living out all this head knowledge that you've acquired from if you've been in the church for a while, like, are you actually going to live that out? And so that's why like Riot is a really good place of like starting that conversation of like, what does this mean if you actually live this out in the way that Christianity is supposed to be taken? And so it's a really natural like next step up from just like that knowledge that you have to like, what does this mean applied? And like, what does that mean when you do apply stuff? And then you have more questions and you need to continue to, like Danny said, like building your theology more as you're living this stuff out and like encountering real world situations where you're like, here's a situation that happened. I don't know if I have a really good answer for this, but I can tell this is going to be very important for my theology. I need to do some research about this and figure out what I think about this.
And you have that support with your leaders and with Rob. And like, I'm like, I know people that I can go to if I have a question.
Yeah. They like support that and they encourage like the finding out and understanding what we actually believe in, which is very helpful. That is like even if like you're just kind of in a slump, they'll push you to be like, go like learn things and grow in our faith. So it's not just kind of stagnant when we're stagnant. They're there to help us all the time. That's another part that I really love about Riot.
Yeah, it's great to have those leaders in our lives when we're struggling with that because they've already lived it and they have great advice to offer. And especially like going into it freshman year. I mean, I was an idiot and knew nothing. And it's great to have someone who can like point you down the right path, but eventually, it is your walk with Jesus. It's not theirs, although it's great to have a leader and someone who knows more than you, obviously, but you have to choose to have Jesus in your life. Yeah. He's already chosen you. He's already decided to love you. You have to accept that life for yourself. So it's really great to have Riot to help you with that. And yeah.
No, that's good. That's a lot of like, high school is this very special time where you're able to decide for Christ for basically the first, like maybe unless you're a really mature middle schooler, like the first time you're able to probably like consciously make that decision and not just, and like understand what you're doing maybe.
And it's kind of the first time I feel like, maybe this is kind of true in middle school, but in high school, like the choices you're making now, like can affect the rest of your life. And so then it's like, oh, I'm making some like big kid decisions now.
Yeah.
It's like, am I going to follow the Lord or am I going to like follow what the world has to offer? Because it's very enticing.
Yeah. What do you guys like? Because I think we talked about it a little bit. And what do you guys find that's like, maybe not uniquely challenging, but especially challenging about like the world right now with you guys being in high school compared to like trying to, walk the way of Jesus in the world? I did not prep you guys for that question at all.
That's an easy one too. Don't worry.
Yeah. Like, are you guys mostly in like public high school or private high school, homeschooled?
I go to a public high school.
Okay. Yes.
Online charter school and early college. Okay.
So me and Scott are homeschoolers.
Yeah,
I would say
those kids.
I would say like going to a public high school is just like the lack of other like Christians, I guess, around. So it's not like going to Riot is like, oh, this is a safe space. There's a ton of other people like me. But when I like step foot at school, like everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. And we might not always agree on what we should do, but just still, even if I don't agree with them, loving them and showing them Christ's love as best as I can. But yeah, just like I would say, and there's also like I feel like the need to like be outspoken about what you believe. I feel like there's just a lot of conversations going, and it's not like a conversation where it's two like sides just yelling at each other, and there's not a lot of listening, which can be sometimes a little frustrating. But just like seeing that, especially at going to a public high school, just seeing that is sometimes just pretty tricky to see and like try and, I don't know, just like be a voice of like my faith, I guess, inside that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, I think that does.
Yeah, that's a challenging part. Trying not to like, I don't know, like make people mad or intentionally like, I don't know, look at like move them the wrong way, but also still trying to like show them Jesus' love and that we care about them is pretty tricky especially going to a public high school where not a lot of people agree with what I believe in.
Yeah. How do you navigate that very tricky social dynamic?
Yeah.
Right. Or like you might get something similar at your work.
Yeah.
Right. Do you work somewhere?
Yeah, I work at Chick-fil-A right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
yes.
But despite what you might think is not a inherently Christian environment.
You mean it's not a church?
No,
What?
Chick-fil-A is not a church presently. It's not a denomination. A denomination of chicken. But I would agree definitely with Danny, and I have never been to public high school, so I don't have that social experience. But I think just in my experience. Definitely overcoming like the stigma surrounding Christianity. And like Danny said, like you already are coming into it in sort of this heightened sense because you know that there's a stigma surrounding you, and you don't want to say something or push something that's going to reinforce that stigma in a bad way, because a lot of the stigma is not the best and the most helpful.
I would also say, like, we were homeschooled all the way up until high school, and so like people are like, oh, you guys are the homeschooled kids, like you love Jesus and you went to Sunday school, and like I think that's a hard stigma to break down too, because people have a preconceived notion about what we're like.
It's tricky because not a lot of people really fully understand what we're doing or like why we do the stuff we do, and so trying not to like move them the wrong way while still like standing firm in what we believe. And
which just reminds me to like go back to like the basics of like what you know about Jesus, because I mean you're never going to arrive, you're never going to be perfect in what you say. There's most likely going to be a point in your life where you're going to say something wrong, and that's just one of the facts of life. We're never going to be perfect until Jesus comes back. But just like that growth needs to happen, and Jesus tells us to like share the gospel with everyone. And it doesn't matter if you're homeschooled or if you go to public school or whatever your situation might be. You know, what you do know about Jesus, what you do know is the truth, and what comes from the Bible, you should tell people.
No, that's good. A lot of, again, kind of that emphasis on the not the basics of the faith, but like the fundamentals, right?
Fundamentals,
the things that you literally just can never move past as a Christian, right? And those things aren't beyond the reach of you guys in high school or even middle school. Like, so why, kind of maybe following up a little bit on why RIOT, on why youth ministry, how do you guys, what benefit do you guys think that youth ministries and like or RIOT has for, maybe not just for RIOT and for the students itself, but for the church as a whole?
I think that just that intentionality and that like bringing up disciples is like, there are students who are in RIOT right now who are going to be future pastors and future like leaders. And I, like when we went on our mission trip and we got commissioned in front of the church and like people laid hands on us. And I just remember John saying like, I just pray that this mission trip would inspire students, because there's students here who are going to be like future leaders, future pastors, future husbands and wives and moms and dads. And like, I just think it starts young, and like to have that to grow up. And I think that it's important that the church knows what's going on in student ministries and supports it, because sometimes it can feel very like a separate entity, but like it is beneficial that we teach young people that Jesus loves them, that he died for their sins, that he has an eternal life waiting for them if they want that. Like anyone at any age should know that and should be able to like access that.
Yeah, access that. Yeah.
Assess.
I'm losing my words.
You're good.
But yeah.
It's very much like we all were in high school.
Yeah.
So it's not just an investment in the youth, it's an investment in the church.
It's an investment in the future.
Yeah. Very much. Yeah. Very much. Yeah. Are there any other things you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say like, it's an investment in the future, because I mean, if you look at the church right now, that's the place where a lot of people are being lost, and a lot of people leaving the church is in this age range of like sort of freshman to graduated young adult. That's when people are
especially
leaving.
After you graduate high school.
Especially after graduate high school, because I think not a lot of that foundation was laid down. And so I think it was a lot of, because I think that there is a stigma surrounding youth ministries, that they kind of take for granted what we're able to process and what we're able to work through. And they think that they have to spoon feed us until we're like, until we're big kids, until we're in the real world, we can really handle it.
Yeah.
And then, people grow up and then they graduate and they go, I have no
I can't feed myself.
Yeah, I was spoon fed this. I don't know what this means. I have no reason to be here. So this is like the most important time to be like, not take for granted what we're able to process and what we're able to work through.
And to like help us build that foundation, but also teach us how to like read the Bible and pray and like work on those disciplines by ourselves, so that we are set up for success when we're not in Riot anymore.
Is that's like an intentional focus you guys have at Riot, or?
I think and like we do. I know most of us have Bible studies that we're going to, and it's just like learning how to read the Bible and how to like have your own devotions and like why it's even important to read the Bible.
Yeah.
I would say,
That's good. No, that's good.
And just conversation surrounding all of that, but.
Because it's like eventually there's gonna while it's amazing that we have all this framework and all the support, eventually there's gonna be a point where we don't have that anymore. And to the extent that we are blessed with it right now, with all these wonderful people around us and all this huge community. One day it's gonna be us and a much smaller amount of people that are going through this, and you're gonna need to do more of the work on your own, and it's important to know how to do that in a good way.
And it's encouraging to me that you guys recognize that already. Yeah, I had no idea at your age. Like, this is awesome. I love it. Like Danny, Katie, do you guys have anything to add on like how Riot benefits, or like is important to like the church as a whole, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of touching on what Skylar said earlier, like is like we're kind of like the next generation of like those like what she was saying, like pastors, leaders, husbands, wives, whatever. Like we're kind of like that next generation of those people. So like just making sure like our foundations and our essentials are built strong. So like Carson was saying, we're not lost in this like transitioning year, because it's very easy to get lost. There's a lot of voices talking at you saying follow this, follow that, but making sure we're not lost during that. And also just kind of like touching on the mission trip as well. Like we're able to go like to places like Lind, Washington, and share the word with like the kids at the VBS, or even when we're walking around the town knocking on doors, share the word of Jesus with people who need to hear it. Even though that's a very small church, it's still a part of the church, like the Big C church as well. And it's I believe it's very important that like we're able to learn how to do that now. So when we're adults, we're going to be well equipped to do it even better. Even better then.
And it's not even like that's something you're doing right now. Like we literally have Egypt mission trip, which is a little more of a destination than Lind, Washington, maybe. But like that's like just the same thing that we would literally be having the adults in the church do, right? Yeah. So there's a sense in which you're the future of the church, but you're also just actively the church right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we're learning to apply the things that we know and like share them with people around us.
No, that's good. That's good. Katie, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I just think that it's beautiful because, the churches were one body. It's not like the adults. It's not like the North Auditorium and then you have the South Auditorium. I mean, while we do have those, it's not like those are two different people groups. We're
one church.
We're one people group who all love God. And I think it's so great that, both youths and adults can have those conversations about Jesus. And I just think that that's so cool.
And family, if you're listening right now and you don't know our high schoolers very well, feel free to just like come out, have a conversation with them. They're really chill.
We're really nice. And
we're really nice.
We don't mind.
No, they're great. Very funny. Very great. Well, I think kind of speaking of the rest of the church, what's something that like you maybe on behalf of like a whole Riot, or maybe just you personally, is something that you wish the rest of the church could know? Like if you just have like one lesson or one story or one misconception or anything that you just would want everyone in our family to hear, what would you share with them? It's a big question, I know.
You're dropping more easy ones.
I know.
I would say, bouncing off what you were just saying, like I think people would be surprised at the conversations that we're having right now at this age. Like so many of my high school memories are like sitting with my friends on a porch in a circle at someone's house, like, and just having like really deep conversations about life and about God and about how to follow Jesus in high school and like what's really hard and what's really good and like the way that we pray for each other and the way that we're like encouraging to each other. I think people would be surprised at like the conversations that we're having right now. And like just so many of my memories from like Riot and high school ministry has just like really sweet conversations, like on the bus to camp or on the porch, or like sitting around the fire on the last night of camp, like we're talking about real things, and like come up to us, have a conversation. Like I love to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's good. I've definitely I haven't done a lot with Riot, but I've definitely had conversations with like people in high school that are deeper conversations like here at our church than I've had like even in men's ministry sometimes.
It's I think people would just be really surprised about how deep they are and how much we know, or how like the questions that we have, or like the things that we're working through and trying to figure out. Like we sit and talk for hours and hours and hours, like and we're just all trying to figure it out.
Like kind of like as you were saying earlier, there's like you have the foundations in place, but you're still learning all of these things. And so you almost have to have those conversations, right?
And they're so fun. And like I'll sit with my friends and talk for 4 hours on the couch about just stuff, and just time takes over. But like, and then we're reading the Bible, and then we're praying for each other. Like it's really special, and it's really cool. And like, I hope that it's encouraging for people to know like that's happening. 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and you know, and up. But
that's good. Yeah, no, that's encouraging to me. What other things you guys want the church to know?
Yeah, I mean, I would just kind of agree with that. Like we're capable of having meaningful conversations, and we want to have meaningful conversations. I think we've been blessed with a really good area to like a good space to learn and grow in. And at least for me, that's really like lit a fire under me, I guess, to that desire to learn and grow has like just increased greatly. So it's like we love having conversations about meaningful things, and we're capable of it. That just kind of agreeing with pretty much all that Skylar said there. But we also love having a good time, and we like having fun. So
sometimes they're not mutually exclusive things, right?
Yeah.
We have a good time.
We have a good time, and we have meaningful conversation. So I would just agree with everything Skylar said there.
It feels kind of like, I don't know, Jesus-y. Like Jesus, not that Danny himself is Jesus, no worries. But like, there's like an element in which Jesus and like John, his first miracle, he does at a wedding reception, celebration, party, whatever, right? But at the same time, he's also having all of these obviously deep conversations, but he's also having so many like basically dinner parties, right? Where he's breaking bread with all of these people. It's kind of a balance of both an enjoyment and depth.
Yeah, and another thing I think we want to touch on is like how willing students and youth ministry is, like bringing up the mission trip. Like we do stuff outside of church, and I just think that that's so cool. Like on the mission trip, there were like 27 students, 25 or something like that. And just the amount of love and willingness that I saw from all the students, like there were like a couple of middle schoolers in there too. Like it's just crazy how young they were and how willing they were to do things for the glory of God. And just never heard any complaining, because some of the tasks were like,
and on day 4 where no one has slept, everyone is sick,
everyone has migraines. Terrible.
It was like kind of
brutal out here.
It was pretty brutal. And everyone is like, okay, now we wake up and it's a new day, and like let's go serve the Lord let's have the joy of the Lord, and let's go do it. And it was so encouraging. It was such a special trip.
That's great. And you're like giving up your spring break to do that, right? If I remember right? Yeah. So big, again, going back to Katie, you're like the sacrificial love you were talking about.
Yeah, and something about that is like the worldly love, like compared to like love that we dream about or that we see in like movies. Like actual like Jesus love is harsh, and it's hard and it's difficult, and you really have to, if you really love someone, it's you're gonna have to sacrifice some things. So it's just seeing that on the mission trip with so many like kids, youths doing it. It was like
youths.
So cool.
Yeah. No, that is cool. That is cool. Yeah. Thank you, Katie. Carson, do you have anything?
It's a circle. It comes back to me.
I know. No pressure.
I would just say like the way we got to this point was not by being fed like this is how you need to do it. This is how it has to be. This is the theology you have to get to this point. It was saying, you know what, you need to figure this out for yourself. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. Because if you just have this is the way we do things. This is what you need to believe about this. This is what you need to believe about that. And there are like undeniable truths that not a lot of debate for that.
Yeah.
Jesus was a guy. Jesus was cool. Not really going to fight you about that one at all.
No.
But all the little things that can be up more to interpretation, up to more the practical things that you need to come to a conclusion about. We didn't get to that point by someone saying, this is what you're going to believe. Now go and pass it. We got to that place by saying, this is what my conclusions are. This is what my theology is. You need to go find out what yours is. Because that's actually what makes your faith meaningful. Is not when it's someone else's faith that just kind of been remixed and is now your faith. But when someone says, this is what my faith is, this is how I got there, you need to go do that for yourself.
It's almost like, to use a kind of a sports analogy, it's like riding a bicycle, right? I can give you a PowerPoint presentation on how to ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, well, you got to keep pedaling or you're going to fall over. But if you never get on a bicycle, like, you don't, your brain never learns how to properly balance. And like, I can give you all the PowerPoint presentations in the world, but if I never let you ride a bike.
Yeah.
And like, I think it speaks to like, we're able to figure out what our theology is and like use critical thinking and like figure out what this is, like, what is, do I even believe in God? Like, those are like the basic questions that you have to go back to. Like, do I believe in God? Do I believe that he died for my sins? Do I believe that he loves me? If I do believe that, then where do I go from here? And like, we're able to unpack that even as high schoolers.
Yeah. Those are great, important questions. Yeah. Very foundational. I know like, we focused a lot on the foundations, but I know that also just to kind of as an anecdote for those listening to just kind of reinforce. I was talking with Karsten and another high schooler in the online room during a Sunday, and they're talking about the book they're going through in small group, and it's like a 1,000-page tome.
Wayne systematic theology.
Yeah, I know. Huge. When both the words are at least 3 syllables on the cover. No, it's like like this is a meaty book.
Yeah,
that's a book you're going to be going through for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
For a second, yeah.
Yeah.
Thing's massive.
And we all bought copies.
There you go. Yeah. So I just want to say that like we're not talking a big game when they're saying like you guys can have these real important conversations. In fact, you might be better at it than many of us are. Just like by the like the fact that you're able to talk about it for 4 hours with your friends. Like I would love to do that now as an adult, but we're all too, I don't know, adulty sometimes.
Too busy.
So, yeah.
That's another reason why I think this ministry is so important at this age of life, because we have the time and like the freedom, I guess, to still do that. Like we don't have as much responsibility as we would once we are like full adults. Not all of our time is taken up by jobs and whatnot. So we're still able to like have time and like we have that desire to learn it, and we have like the freedom and not as much responsibility as we would have. So we're able to go out and do things like that.
Oh, for sure. It's a huge blessing.
Yeah. I was just, earlier today, I was thinking of some passages that were meaningful. And in Matthew 18, Jesus is talking to his disciples and they're asking him, who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And he says, and calling to him a child, he put him in the midst of them. And he said, truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And I think as we get older, it gets so easy to lose that like childlike faith.
Yeah.
And it's the distractions of growing up and being an adult and going to college and all these things are really loud in your life. And I think my encouragement is just to like remember the basics, remember the childlike faith and just like the awe and the wonder of Jesus and like sitting at his feet. That's so special. And like
That's good. Yeah. That's a reminder I need as an adult. I've not even been an adult that long in the grand scheme of things. Kind of taking a bit of a different tact. Wanted to talk about our church specifically, Morning Star. What are some things that maybe Morning Star does to support our youth ministry well? And what are some things you can maybe think that it could do better? Like Morning Star as a family, as a people. How have you seen, maybe it's like a specific anecdote and like a specific person, or maybe it's just like a decision or something bigger, like anything you can think of.
That was weird.
Yeah.
I think something that is done well that is always encouraging to me to see, and was more encouraging, is camp this year. I know that you just talked about that with Rob, but I went this year not as a student but as staff, and like just to see so many, like 100 other adults who were there and who were giving up their whole week of work. Like Tyler Winters is cooking food for all of us and he brings his entire family. Like people are giving, like being sacrificial with their love and giving up of their time. And a lot of people have a vested interest, but there's a lot of adults there who are just there to serve, who don't have students in High Life or in Riot, who just want to serve. And like that is so encouraging and special. And like, if you should come help at camp. Like it's such a great week, and like it's so fun to like serve the students and see what God does in their lives, and like to watch 200 or 300 students like worship together. Like that was one of my biggest takeaways, was like I was sitting in the back and I'm watching all these students worship and I'm like crying because I'm like, this is so special. Like where does this happen?
Right.
And I think that it's just cool to see like adults who maybe aren't even attached to student ministries like serving at camp.
Yeah, no, I think that's very cool. We did have an episode on that, as Skylar mentioned. I believe it's a couple episodes back now with Rob. You can also see in the background, just at probably the top of the frame, that we have the Great Camp 2023 banner up there. So it's a good plug. Yeah. So that was something that the church did well. Do you have something that the church you think could do better at?
I think for the rest of the year, like sometimes it can feel very separate. Like we're in the South and they're in the North. And I just like, I think I would just encourage people to like engage in conversation, like go up to one of the young people who are sitting in the student section during the 11 o'clock or and be like, hey, how's it going? Like, I just think more connection on Sunday would help it feel more unified during the rest of the year, during the rest of the week. And like, we're all willing to have conversation. Like we want to know you and we want to be known. So I would just say,
And you don't care how old the person is who's talking to you, do you?
No.
Okay. That's, I think, a common misconception is like, once you're over 60, you can't do youth ministry. No. That's a lie.
Janice the leader.
Janice is out here doing the Lord's work.
Yes.
My favorite person ever, probably.
She's so great.
She's amazing.
And she's on the older side of things. I don't know her exact age, but definitely on the older side of things.
I think
if you ask her, she'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She's proud of it.
Great story. Where was it? It was at camp, and we were on the rafting day, and our boat was in front of hers. I turned around, I was watching their boat go down like this section they call riding the bull, where you like sit off the front of the raft, and I see Janice doing it with like one hand out and like riding it like a bull. It was just wild, and she goes hard, and so that's pretty awesome. But yeah, I think another thing we do well is separating the middle school and high school ministries out into two different things. I've been to a couple other youth groups in my time, and all the other ones have been a mesh of middle school and high school together. And while that is a good thing, like it's good for like the high schoolers to be able to minister to the middle schoolers and vice versa, because we have things to learn from young people as well. But just like the maturity differences between the age ranges, like the jump from 8th grade to freshman year is so huge, and you see that every year with the incoming freshmen. It's nice to have that I guess that separation. I don't really like the word because it seems
but that intentional space,
the intentional space to where we have our room to like learn and grow, but also like at camp we're together, but also still a little bit like with that intentional space, but we're able to like minister to the middle schoolers, and we're able to like see what they're doing still, but also have our own like our room to learn and grow in our like specific walks with in our life, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's good.
That's something we do well.
That's good.
And also something that the adults and just the Church of Morning Star, I think, does really well is like intentionally like praying for youth, because I can't tell you like how many times like at camp, I was baptized. Woo. And then Pastor Jared like came up to me later and was like, I came down specifically to see you and one other person get baptized so I could pray over you. Wow. And that's just like so special when you like, it doesn't seem huge, but it really is when someone's intentionally praying over you. That's just, I think that's so special. And I think that's something that we do really well. And it's just, you don't even understand like the gravity of that.
Yeah, and I would agree. Like, I know when we went on the mission trip, we had the list on the wall of everyone who was praying for us. Like, and it was
a big list.
It was a big list, and it was so encouraging to be like, I don't know who a lot of these people are, but I want to know them because I know they've been praying for me all week long. And so like to move on from that, like, like I would love to meet all these people who are like watching the camp recap, or like I was praying for you, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, prayer is asking the most powerful being ever to ever exist to like to do something, right? Yeah. Like it's as easy as talking, and I think it's such an important thing to do for our youth ministries and for the whole church.
For the whole church, but it really is impactful, like Katie was saying. Like it, yeah. No,
that's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing that. Karsten, do you have?
Yeah, something we do really well is I think the events that we do in the youth ministry are huge. Those like intentional events that we do that are more marketed towards people that don't go to RIOT, people who go to RIOT who have like friends
outreach
that don't go, that are outreach events to get kids to, come to Morningstar and like be able to experience like, camp and like Sockham and winter weekend and like all the all these like silly events that we do that in
or
like
AMP,
in the end
like,
or AMP for the middle school AMP
it's all night middle school party.
Whoa, let's go.
That's such an easy thing to just be like, hey, like friend from school, you should come to this. It's gonna be this fun event that they then get exposed to that, and that has, I know that's brought so many people in,
and it's fun for us, but it's such a great opportunity to like invite your friends or like anyone that you know, and like we always print flyers and kids bring stacks to their school and just hand them out to everyone that they know, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, and I would say kind of what Skylar said, it's like something we can improve on is like the not separating like students as much. Like we had like at 11 a.m. we have a student section. That's great. I love that. I think that's wonderful that like when that's full, but I also think that'd be wonderful if they just came and we're just not like I'm a student coming to big church, but just I'm a member of the church that's coming to sit on in on the service, and I don't need to like be over here, but I'm just going to be within the church body because I'm a part of the church body.
And I think some of what I think, Skylar, you were talking about coming up and just talking to them after church on a Sunday.
For sure.
I think a lot of that could go a long ways to helping with that too.
Yeah, because it's not just something that the older people do, but I think that's also like when a high schooler comes in, they're like, oh, this is kind of, I don't feel like I really belong here or anything. So really just taking ownership of like, no, you are part of the church body because we're all part of the church body.
Almost as if community was like in the name of our church or something.
Wild.
Morning Star. I don't see it.
Not there.
No, that's important. That's good. Where is the student section? Just for those unaware.
You think it's usually front left.
Front left.
It would usually be like on the leftmost.
If you're looking at the stage,
column,
front,
looking at the stage,
left,
front, and then left.
Yes.
Usually a lot of young people.
That would be a good giveaway.
Student section.
Look for all the young people.
We usually go to the 9 a.m. and we usually sit just somewhere. Like next to whoever, and it's kind of fun to just like be next to I don't know.
Yeah. You don't never know who you're gonna sit, and that's like another thing you can initiate so much more connection than just sitting next to that same student group that you're always with, being like, you know what, I'm gonna go sit. Maybe I'm gonna go sit way on the right side this week, and like then after service, I just met someone I've never met before, and now we're talking. That never would have happened if I never would have immersed myself in the church body.
Do you ever have people like swinging by RIOT just kind of randomly to chat, or?
Not super often, but every once in a while, like people want to check it out, or like if we have, like when we had the missions recap night, there was lots of parents and just people from the church who wanted to know like what we did. It's more like during events, but every once in a while we'll just have people swing by.
Okay, good. That's awesome. I think like as an adult who, barely an adult, but an adult, Sometimes like I feel like I, at least, and probably other adults, can get so worked up in our heads about like, oh my gosh, our high school is just so intimidating. Like, I don't know all this slang. I don't know this TikTok thing or whatever.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't either.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's encouraging to me to hear you guys just like repeatedly insist. It's like, yeah, we just want to talk.
Yeah. And I think that I would encourage people, like, it's not, you don't need to like know this, the slang or like know anything. Like, we're just people. We're just trying to follow Jesus in the like stage of life that we're in. And we're just trying to have fun and like have good conversations and learn how to follow Jesus.
That's good.
That's all you need is you have in common. You both love Jesus. That's all
You need to.
Perhaps that's more important than knowledge of TikTok, right?
Yeah, that is more important.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Well, we're kind of reaching the close of the time that we had, but before we run out of time, I did want to make sure, go around. Do you guys have any like lingering thoughts, any closing thoughts or anything, last thing you want to say before we kind of get into wrapping things up?
Any monologues?
Any monologues? Yeah. Any random scripture verses? Any Karsten has a joke?
No, I don't know.
Oh, dang. I'll put you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah, it's gotta come up organically.
Yeah.
It's gotta come up organically. I'll read the other verse that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Let me find it.
No pressure. This is phone Bibles. They're slower than the paper ones.
I know.
Even if I had a paper Bible, I'd probably be there right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Ever heard of a sword drill?
I think obviously the verse that is pretty easy that comes to mind, and one that when I graduated that Rob put on all the seniors like little going away certificates was 1 Timothy 4:12, which is, let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Like, just because we are young doesn't mean really anything.
Yeah.
I think we can still teach people things and teach people how to follow the Lord with that childlike faith that sometimes when you grow up, you just walk, like, you get away from. And so, yeah.
We can become so cynical that sometimes we need the refreshing of just looking like, oh, look how like Danny loves Jesus, and just the way he's walking pure, and the fact that he spends most of his day in a way higher pressure environment of high school than I do at my job, where I'm just siloed at a computer, right? So yeah, I think that's a good one. Thank you for sharing that, Skylar.
Absolutely.
Does that? Yeah, you sound
and a little bit building off that, just as much as we would have to like learn from the older people in this church, I'm a firm believer in like we can learn from anyone at any age. Like,
Absolutely.
if I can learn from someone who's 3 years younger than me in middle school just as much as I could learn from someone like Rob, who has gone to college for like learning the Bible basically.
Yeah.
And that I think that it applies to everyone. Like, we have things that maybe not like intentionally we could teach you, but that you could still learn from us just as much as we will learn from you guys. So it's
a two-way street. Yeah. Absolutely.
come into a mind of like, oh, sure, like we might as the adult broach the conversation at a Sunday, go to the student section, talk to you guys, but it's not just like you're not just there to pour into them.
Yeah,
like let yourself be poured into.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's good. Any other closing thoughts?
I don't know. I would just say if you know high schoolers, like, encourage them to learn for themselves, especially in this stage. Like, this is the most important time where they need to learn things for themselves. And when you like try and approach theology or push things on this, it's like, we do this because, I don't know, we've done it for a really long time and it's a part of the tradition. That could be true, and there's probably reasons for that. But I'd much rather know those reasons for why we do that, as opposed to just we do this. And that's why so many people are like having doubts and leaving and doing all these things, is because that's a lot of what they're taught, what was rooted in. This is what I was taught. We do it because we've done it for a really long time, and so you're going to do it too, as opposed to like, no, there's actual logic and rationale for why we do this. That is so important for us to have a grasp of that, and that you can understand. Not be like, oh yeah, like we'll get into it when you're older, but it's like, now.
Let's get into it now.
It's time now, because we're living real life now.
Yeah, and it's getting not easier.
Yeah,
definitely not.
For sure. And I think that's something that's convicting as an adult of like that on our side means we have to know what we actually like, why we believe what we believe and what we actually believe. We can't just rely on catchy slogans and then be like, Karsten, follow the slogan.
Yeah.
You know, we like explain ourselves. Otherwise we're not actually equipping people for discipleship. We're just, you know, confusing them with a long list of rules.
Hitting the talking points.
Right. Yeah.
And it's very shallow. It's shallow.
Yeah, good. Katie, do you have any closing thoughts?
There's nothing rattling around up there.
Okay. No worries whatsoever. Just wanted to make space for that. So real quick, one thing I like to close every episode with is just a brief recap of where people can kind of find you around the church in case someone's like, oh my gosh, I really loved what Katie or what Karsten or Danny or Skylar had to say. And they just kind of want to follow up and talk to you guys about it. Or maybe they're like, finally, I'll talk to a high schooler. I was so scared, but now. So real quick, like what sort of, you know, you go to RIOT presumably, but also what services do you go to generally? Like where can people find you around the church? Katie, if you want to go ahead and start, just go around the circle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm typically at the 11 a.m. service. Okay. You know, you can see me in Bridge 45 sometimes because my brother is there, and I'm usually in the 11 service. Sometimes we're at 9. I'm at RIOT. You know, that's typically where I'll be in the church.
Yeah, RIOT is Wednesday evenings.
Yeah.
The church.
7 to 9.
Not during the month of August, but by the time this comes out, I think that should be over. So
we are also on the student leadership team though, so we show up at 5 to get things ready. So catch us anytime between like 6 and 7. Okay. We are doing nothing. So
oh, good to know. Good to know.
So you can come talk to us during that time as well.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, Skylar, where can people...
We usually go to the 9 a.m. together. I'm moving pretty soon to go to school, so I won't be around as much. But hoping to find new community out by school and in Monmouth, and he's around. Nice. And we're at events usually.
Yeah. Usually events. Yeah, I'm usually pretty consistently at the 9, and so
And I don't know if we made this clear. I think it was implied, but you guys are brother sister.
We're siblings.
Siblings. Yeah. Surprise. Okay.
Plot twist.
Yeah, awesome. And Danny, where can people...
I actually don't go to Morning Star on Sunday service. I go with my family to a different church called Outward.
Controversial. Take down the podcast.
Are you even allowed to do that? Is that even legal?
No. But yeah, you can come find me at RIOT. I don't usually miss them.
Yeah.
If I'm not there,
not allowed to
call the police. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, come find me between 5 and 9 on Wednesday nights at the church. I'm also at pretty much all the events if I can be there. And I do go occasionally to like the 11 o'clock service sometimes. So find me there as well.
Like a holiday every time.
Yes. There we go. That's when we like schedule Family Sunday. We have the choir on stage. All that just for Danny.
Exactly.
Right?
He's here.
Yes. No.
And the red carpet.
Family, thank you so much for listening. If you're at all interested in talking further to them, please reach out on a Sunday morning and just go talk to them. They're very friendly. And also, if anything, like you said, is like, wow, this is cool and this is something I want to get involved in. Feel free to reach out to Rob. I can put some contact information in the description. If you're like, oh man, I feel like maybe the Lord is putting something on my heart and I want to be involved in leading and helping with RIOT in some capacity, whether that's through prayer or whether that's through, volunteering at camp, or whether that's becoming a full-on RIOT leader, anything like that.
Do it.
Yeah. We would love to have you so much. So thank you listening. Thank you so much for being on, everyone. And I hope you...
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And family, I hope you had a wonderful week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Morning Star podcast. Join us again next time as we display God's handiwork and encourage you to live a Jesus-first life.